Back Look Cinema, the podcast.
Hi, my name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. And I bring to you a bonus episode number 28. I'm bringing this to you instead of a regular episode, mainly because I saw a movie this week and I wanted to talk about it, and I want to push back the regular episode until a later time, maybe later on this week or possibly even next Monday. But instead, I went to, it's the holidays anyway, and I felt like, let's do something different. So the something different that I did, or it's an activity that I did with my son, is that we went and we saw Gladiator II. And in this bonus episode, I want to leave you my impressions of Gladiator II. Now, if this is a bonus episode and I don't have a regular episode, is this really a bonus episode? Well, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm not going to gussy it up with some different language. Mainly, I call it a bonus episode because instead of covering the movies of yesteryear, instead of covering the movies of the past, I'm going to talk about a movie that I just saw and leave you with my impressions for it. So if you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell your nearest Roman emperor or your nearest Roman Empire mega fan about Backlook Cinema, the podcast. Now, about Gladiator II. A city in Numidia falls to Roman conquest, and among the spoils of war is a young Numidian soldier who is forced to entertain the people of Rome as a gladiator. The captured Numidian wants nothing more than revenge on the Roman general for the death of his beloved wife, who was killed as they both defended their homeland. There is more to Rome than meets the eye. There's treachery everywhere. Everyone seems to have a hidden motive, and the empire is run by corrupt twin emperors. A man once had a dream that was Rome, but can such a dream ever come to life? So before I get into my impressions, let's get into some of the people who helped put this movie together. Starting with the stars. This movie features Paul Mescal as Hanno, Denzel Washington as Macrinus, Pedro Pascal as General Acacius, Connie Nielsen as Lucilla. I almost got that wrong. Joseph Quinn as Emperor Gaeta, Fred Hartinger as Emperor Caracalla, and Alexander Karim as Ravi. And I probably messed some of those names up too, and I profusely apologize. This movie was directed by Ridley Scott, and you may know him as the director of Gladiator, the movie that came before this. And this movie was written by David Scarpa, William Craig, and David Frazzoni, and the music is by Henry Gregson Williams. Now, on with my impressions. One of my impressions is I was trying to figure out what the themes of this might be, and I think it's similar to the themes of the last movie, when essentially it's following along very similar paths. There's a thing about legacy sequels where a lot of them kind of just copy the previous movies. So for instance, you had Star Wars, I think it was, what's it called? The Last Jedi. I think that was the first of the sequel series. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And in that movie, it was pretty much a repeat of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, chronologically the first movie in Star Wars series. It followed many of the same beats. The story was generally the same as in Star Wars Episode 4. And another one was Top Gun. You had Top Gun and you had the sequel, Top Gun Maverick, which generally follows the same story as the original movie. They did add a few other elements to it, but it still kind of the same movie. And the same thing has happened with this movie. This movie follows generally the same path as the previous movie. And I will say that I did like the previous movie better. And the reason I can say that is because that movie made more sense. It was a very straightforward story. It wasn't particularly convoluted. It was it was a hero's journey. They follow, you follow the hero's path along his journey. And then there's a huge climactic battle between the hero and his main oppressor, or his op. They say op now. The kids are saying his main op. And at the end of the movie, and there's a sort of resolution. And in this movie, it follows, as I said, it follows along a similar path, but there's more convolution that's introduced into this story. I think it's meant to make it significantly different, or there are different elements. Like there are the same archetypes in this movie as in the previous movie, but some of the archetypes are kind of turned on their heads. But a lot of the same things happen in this movie that happened in the previous movie. A lot of the same themes along those lines. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. So I'm not going to mention any specific elements, but I will say that there are some elements that were a little bit annoying that I did not like, that I felt either were unnecessary or they kind of messed up what made the first movie so good. Like they introduce elements that affects the story in the first movie, and not in a positive way. There were some elements that in this new movie that were very good that I liked. There were some things in it that were convoluted in a way that it might leave some people confused, but then there are other elements that I like. I will say that there's a lot of backstabbing and conniving going on, a lot of double speak going on in this movie that I really like. I guess they could be thought of as soap opera elements. So those are the things about the story that I liked. And I liked the overall. I could see what they were trying to accomplish, but for me, they didn't quite get there. The visuals in the movie were beautiful. The music was great. The costumes were magnificent, and the acting was inspired. So all of these things were great. There's nothing that along those lines that I would say that I have anything bad to say about. So my only hang up is the story. For example, the hero of the story, his name is Hanno, and Hanno is he lives in Numidia. He has a wife, and Numidia is conquered. He's taken as a gladiator, and he's just like filled with rage and revenge. And he has to fight, and basically for survival. What he's really fighting for is for the chance to get revenge on the people who killed his family and basically took over his city in Numidia. But one of the problems with the writing is that I don't feel like they sufficiently built up the hero Hanno. He's too closed off. I feel he's kind of closed off to the people who captured him because he's angry and he's brooding, but they close him off in such a way that he's closed off from the audience, and it's hard to care about Hanno. It's hard to root for him, and it's hard to see how Hanno could lead to other gladiators, because I felt that there was something that was kind of missing. There's something needed to be there's something that needed to be added to Hanno to make him more appealing to the audience, if not the characters in the movie. I think there needed to be more interactions with Hanno and some of the other gladiators. There are some with, he makes best friends with, like a doctor that's, that stitches up the gladiators when they get hurt. But I felt like if there were more gladiators that he was friends with, that he was attached to, then I think that it would draw the audience more towards him as like the hero of the film. So that would have been helpful. And I felt like that was lacking. Denzel Washington in his role as Macrinus was magnetic. He was just a delight to see in this setting. He was ostentatious. He made huge grand gestures, and it was his storyline that really kept the movie together, because it was his storyline that made it different from the storyline of the original movie. It was how his arc went that really showed the difference between this movie and the previous movie. Overall, I was generally entertained by the action. I really enjoyed all the action in the movie. Was ostentatious and outstanding. But the story was a little bit, it needed help. It's like it needed to go to another draft or something. I can't exactly put my finger on it without spoiling more of the movie. So the only thing that I would say, without spoiling anything, is that there are some things in this movie that don't make sense. And it's like a number of things. Some of the characters, some of their motivations don't make sense. Some of the relationships between certain characters don't make sense. And there was one point in this movie, it's like, well, I think this character should have lied about this one particular fact. And it would have, if this character had lied about this fact, then it would have made the whole movie better for me. But apparently that character was telling the truth. And now it kind of harms the first movie in that. So I don't generally give movies a grade or a rating or anything like that. I'm just sharing my thoughts of how I felt when I watched the movie. And I guess to sum it up, I was generally entertained. There were some elements that I didn't like, some things that didn't make sense. And I can't really say, without spoiling anything, if these things will affect your enjoyment. If you're asking me whether or not you should see this movie, I would tell you that I generally had a good time and I enjoyed the spectacle of it all. But if you want a good story, then this may not be the movie for you if you want a good story. The story definitely was not as good as the first movie, so don't expect. I don't really expect you to enjoy this movie better than you enjoyed the last movie. I'll say that. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't better, but it was entertaining, and because I enjoyed the ostentatiousness of it, but I did not enjoy some of the story elements. So, but I'm glad I saw it in the theater, but I'm kind of wishy-washy on it, as you can tell. I'm wishy-washy. I don't want to, what you call it? I'm not encouraged to tell you to run out and see it. Let me put it that way. If there are, like, if there was a choice where you was like, well, I can only see either Wicked, which is also out this weekend, or Gladiator II, you would probably do better seeing Wicked, even though it's like 2.5 hours and it's only the first part of an overarching story. And I haven't seen Wicked, so I can't say for sure that you'd enjoy it better than Gladiator II. I can't guarantee that you'll enjoy Wicked better than Gladiator II. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. All I can do is tell you that the story in Gladiator needed some help. It didn't work exactly well, but everything else about the movie was good. I guess that's it. That's my impressions. Thanks for listening. I don't know when the next episode is going to come out. It might, like, as I said, it might come out later this week. But does it make sense to put out an episode on the same week as Thanksgiving? Probably not. Maybe I should just wait until Monday. So it'll definitely be out by Monday. And if you, as I said, if you like what you heard, then please go ahead and leave a like or subscribe. If you're listening on YouTube, please follow. Please do the things, click the buttons, whatever they say on YouTube. I already forget. And that's it for right now. And the next show that I show, or the next movie that I'm going to talk about, that I want to talk about, is Get Shorty, and that's going to be in a regular format. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and I guess I'll put Blue Sky back up there since it's the happening thing right now. Otherwise, you could send an email to fanmail@backlickcinema.com. And as I always say, be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.